Hey heroes, welcome to another avenging episode of History of the Marvel Universe. This channel is sponsored in part by Patreon supporters. If you would like to vote in monthly polls that help decide what topics get covered on the channel, you can sign up for $1 per month over at patreon.com/MaryMarvelite. The link is in the description below. Warren Kenneth Worthington III was born in Centerport, Long Island, to an exceptionally wealthy family. From the time he was born, Warren III completely lacked any fear of heights, much to the dismay of his parents, Warren and Catherine, when he climbed up trees and onto roofs. As a boy, he was naturally athletic and attractive, making him popular at the private boarding school he attended. And yet, for some reason, he always felt different and alone, as if there was something separating him from the other students. He shared a room with a boy named Cameron Hodge, who Warren believed to be his friend, but Hodge secretly resented him. He did have at least one real friend, a girl his age named Candy Southern, but one day Warren's back began to swell and the other boys mocked him for what appeared to be unusually large shoulder blades. Within a few days, he found an exceptionally sized feather in his bedroom one night. Finally, not long after that, he was shocked to see wings emerging from his back. Initially they were small, but as they grew larger, Warren kept his wings tied down to prevent them from being noticed under his clothes. Then one night a fire broke out in the dorms, forcing him to escape out the window. But by this point, Warren's wings had grown large enough to allow him to fly. He initially planned on simply hiding them again, but soon heard the screams of other boys still trapped in the burning building. Using a wig and costume from the theater department, he disguised himself as an angel and helped the students escape safely. From then on, while he kept his wings hidden in the daylight, at night Warren found freedom in flight. Inspired by the response to his initial act of heroism, he started fighting crime as a masked vigilante, calling himself the Avenging Angel. While not a specialist in science, Warren concocted a weapon using gas-filled ping-pong balls to help in his crusade. But one day, while returning to his aviary, he found two other strangely garbed teenagers waiting for him. Of course, as you may have guessed, the truth is that Warren's wings were the result of his mutant X gene. And it was around this time that Professor Charles Xavier was putting together a team of mutant heroes. His first two recruits, Cyclops and Iceman, were sent to bring the Angel into the fold. However, the fumes from the gases he used in his crime fighting had left Warren irritable and untrusting. But then Xavier telepathically spoke to him and cautioned him about the negative side effects of the gas gun. Furthermore, it turned out that a vial Warren had confiscated from a group of criminals was actually an experimental explosive that threatened the whole city. But with Xavier mentally guiding him, the Angel was able to disarm the device high in the sky and maintain consciousness as he flew back down. After that, his mind cleared and Warren agreed to join Xavier's cause, thus becoming the third X-Man. His red Avenging costume was replaced with a blue and yellow X-Men uniform, and Warren shortened his moniker to simply the Angel. Under Xavier's tutelage, he learned to utilize his power of flight to the fullest, increasing his speed and maneuverability. And he also helped recruit the team's fourth member, Hank McCoy, the Beast. Their roster was finally completed with the addition of Xavier's secret student, the telekinetic Jean Grey. Soon after, the X-Men made their public debut in a battle with Magneto, and of course, the rest is history. Warren Worthington fought many adversaries as the Angel, concealing his flexible wings with straps and loose-fitting clothing while in his civilian identity. Having transferred to Xavier's School for the Gifted, he and the other X-Men made up the institution's first graduating class. For a while, he carried a flame for Jean Grey, but it eventually became clear that she was more interested in Cyclops. But as luck would have it, around that time, Warren ran into his old friend, Candy Southern, and a romance soon followed. Eventually, after proving themselves time and again, each of the X-Men were given personalized costumes, with Angel donning an interesting combination of blue, yellow, and red. One of the team's subsequent battles was against a subterranean humanoid called Grotesque. It was during this encounter that Professor Xavier was seemingly killed. In truth, the one who died was a shapeshifter named Changeling who impersonated the Professor, while the real Xavier was occupied preparing for an alien invasion. But you can check out my Jean Grey video for more information on that, which I'll link in the description. The important part for today is that while Xavier was thought to be dead, the team's FBI contact, Fred Duncan, ordered the X-Men to disband. While apart from the others, the Angel returned to his roots as a solo crime fighter. He also took this opportunity to visit his parents, including his ailing father. But shortly afterwards, Warren's father was killed by agents of a criminal known as the Dazzler. Not the musical mutant superstar, that's a different person entirely. No, this Dazzler was actually Warren's uncle, Burt Worthington, who ran an illegal diamond smuggling operation. When Warren's father uncovered Burt's schemes, the Dazzler had his own brother killed. The Angel and the Dazzler soon learned each other's identities after Burt also kidnapped Warren and Candy. Ultimately, the Dazzler's plans to create a diamond-powered superweapon were thwarted by the Angel. Warren successfully saved Candy from the ensuing explosion and tried to do the same for his uncle, but the Dazzler continued to fight and seemingly perished after falling from Warren's grasp. After the X-Men reunited, the Angel also battled Sauron, a vampiric were-pterodactyl with hypnotic powers. This ultimately resulted in him being stranded in the Savage Land, a prehistoric jungle hidden in the Antarctic. There he was rescued by Magneto, who he didn't recognize, having not yet seen him without his helmet. Magneto simply identified himself as the Creator, having transformed native tribesmen into superhumans called Savage Land Mutates. Magneto also gave Warren a new costume, part of a plot to drain the younger mutant's energy and subsequently replenish his own. But I already talked about that story in my video on the early history of Magneto, so check out that story for more details there. After that adventure, the X-Men finally learned that Xavier was actually alive. He subsequently sent them back to the Savage Land to determine Magneto's fate following their previous encounter. During that trip, Warren befriended a bird-like mutant woman named Avia, who lacked the ability to speak. Meanwhile, he continued to date Candy Southern, and by this point had revealed his dual identity and told her about the X-Men. And it was Candy who warned Warren after learning that his uncle, the Dazzler, was still alive. This time, Burt Worthington plotted to secure the family fortune by marrying Warren's mother Catherine and slowly poisoning her. The Angel and the X-Men were successful in exposing the Dazzler and thwarting his plans, but Warren was too late to save his mother from the deadly toxins. In her final moments, Catherine Worthington saw her son as an angel, and asked him to bring her to the heavens. Following that, the X-Men had several more adventures, notably one in which they investigated the living mutant island Krakoa. After most of the team was captured, Xavier was forced to put together an all-new, all-different team of X-Men to help them escape. After that, Warren and most of the other original members decided to leave to pursue other ventures. Angel and Iceman relocated to California, where they planned on attending college. However, they were soon caught up in a conflict involving the Olympian gods and several other superheroes. In the wake of this, the two former X-Men joined forces with Hercules, Ghost Rider, and the Black Widow to form the Champions of Los Angeles. Revealing his identity to the public, Warren used his vast inheritance to fund the new team's exploits. Unfortunately, corrupt contractors cut corners, resulting in regular issues with their equipment. Ultimately, the whole thing fell apart and the individual members went their separate ways. Angel returned to the X-Men for a time, but had fallen out of practice with his training. He soon left again regardless, unable to abide the violent tendencies of the X-Man Wolverine. Although he would later be rescued by the team after being abducted by Callisto, leader of the sewer-dwelling mutants known as the Morlocks. She intended on forcing him to marry her, but was bested in single combat by the X-Man Storm. In the wake of that, Warren re-examined his life and considered how little he'd actually accomplished in spite of his privilege. He confided in fellow former X-Men, Iceman and Beast, the latter of which had become associated with the loose-knit Defenders group. Beast was in the process of arranging the Defenders into a more formal team, and so Angel agreed to join and offered financial backing. Candy was still with him and also supported the group, effectively acting as their manager. However, things started to turn bad when the Defender Moondragon was possessed by the demonic Dragon of the Moon. Lashing out at the team, she used her powers to strike Warren in the eyes, blinding him. She eventually restored his eyesight, but the first thing Warren saw was Candy Southern hanging upside down with a knife at her throat. Fortunately, Angel, Iceman, and Beast were able to save Candy and other innocents threatened by Moondragon. The other Defenders, meanwhile, defeated their possessed teammate seemingly at the cost of their own lives. With most of that group gone, Angel, Beast, and Iceman later reunited with Cyclops and Jean Grey to reform the original X-Men team as something new. Their reunion was also largely due to the fact that Jean had recently returned after being thought to have been dead for some time. For all the details around those events, check out my video on the Dark Phoenix saga. Anyway, the idea for what came next originated from Warren's old roommate Cameron Hodge. Together, they started a company called X Factor, in which the 5 mutants posed as regular humans who specialized in hunting mutants, while secretly using this as a front to rescue and protect their supposed targets. One of these rescuees was a mute boy named Artie Maddox, who had a relatively harmless power, the ability to project images based on the thoughts of himself or those around him, but a noticeable outward mutation. Warren funded the whole enterprise, but because his own status as a mutant was public knowledge, he did so in secret. Cameron Hodge acted as their public relations manager, but he had ulterior motives of his own. Secretly hating mutants himself, Hodge used the company's supposed anti-mutant stance to foment even more fear and mistrust among the general public. Although Warren's involvement as the team's financial backer was soon discovered and leaked to the press by the mutant Mystique, creating considerable controversy. Meanwhile, a rift formed between Cyclops and Jean Grey as he had married another woman while Jean was thought to be dead. Well, Cyclops' wife, Madeline Pryor, was actually a clone of Jean Grey created by Mr. Sinister, but that's another long story which we've mentioned on the channel before. While Jean was still in love with Scott, Warren's old feelings for her were rekindled. And although nothing really happened between them, the whole situation strained Warren's relationship with Candy, causing her to leave him. Warren wanted to go after her, but soon had something more important to attend to. Mr. Sinister had dispatched his Marauders to wipe out the Morlocks in a full-on mutant massacre. With the young Artie also down in the Morlock tunnels, Angel rushed off to save him. While he did find the boy, he was then attacked by the Marauders, Harpoon, and Blockbuster. In a horrific encounter, he was pinned to the wall by his wings with energy-charged harpoons, while handfuls of feathers were ripped out with super strength. Fortunately, the Angel was rescued by divine intervention in the form of the Thunder God Thor. Suffice it to say, with his help, Artie and the Angel were able to escape and reunite with X Factor. However, Warren's wings were badly injured and in danger of becoming irrevocably infected. Cameron Hodge used this to have the doctors amputate them against Warren's wishes, even arranging a court order declaring him mentally incompetent. Frustrated, betrayed, and mutilated, the Angel fell into a deep state of depression. Having secured control of X Factor's finances, Hodge then attempted one final betrayal against his old friend. When Warren took a small private plane up into the air, Hodge sabotaged his flight, making it seem like Warren had intentionally ended his own life. However, at the last second, Warren was saved by the ancient mutant Apocalypse. He was building a modern incarnation of his 4 horsemen, and Warren was desperate to regain what he'd lost. and thus Warren Worthington was transformed into Apocalypse's steel-winged horseman of death. The genetic manipulation that facilitated this also had the side effect of turning his skin completely blue. Apocalypse, of course, attempted to turn Warren against his former friends and teammates, but in the end he resisted his control, turning against Apocalypse and subsequently started calling himself Dark Angel. Over the course of all of this, the former X-Men also learned the truth about Cameron Hodge's schemes and betrayals, but could not yet prove it to the public. When Candy Southern learned of this, she intended on revealing what she knew to the press, but was captured by Hodge before she could. When Warren tracked Hodge down, he found Candy had been experimented on and left dying. In an attempt to rescue her, and in retaliation for everything he'd done, the Dark Angel beheaded Cameron Hodge with his razor-sharp wing. However, he was too late to save Candy, who died in his arms mere moments later. There was little time to mourn, though, for Hodge had allied himself with demons from a limbo dimension called Other Place. In exchange for immortality, Hodge helped the demons get what they needed to launch a full-scale invasion of New York. Rejoining X-Factor, Warren changed his alias to Archangel and helped repel the infernal forces. He later met a policewoman named Charlotte Jones by saving her after she was knocked out of a helicopter. The two grew close, and both Charlotte and her son Timmy helped Warren reclaim his humanity. He subsequently clashed with Cameron Hodge again, whose head had survived its decapitation due to his Faustian bargain. Despite another defeat, Hodge has returned several times since then, often affixing his head to a robotic or cyborg body. In the meantime, Warren and the other X-Factor members reunited with Xavier and rejoined the X-Men proper. But the scars of what he'd been through remained, and Warren often lamented the loss of his original wings. He later had some closure regarding Candy's death when she seemingly reappeared alive and well. In truth, her consciousness had been assimilated by a techno-organic alien race called the Phalanx, and subsequently transferred into an artificial body. When Hodge returned in an effort to use her techno-organic form for his own purposes, Candy sacrificed herself to defeat him once again. This time, before she died, she told Warren that she wasn't angry or disappointed that he'd failed to save her, but that she loved him for trying. Warren would go on to have other romantic partners, notably his teammate Betsy Braddock, known at the time as Psylocke. Meanwhile, in an encounter with the savage mutant Sabretooth, Warren's metal wing was cracked. While he could still fly, eventually the damage seemed like it was spreading across his wingspan. However, this turned out to be a blessing in disguise as the metal shell molted, revealing that his natural wings had seemingly regrown underneath. Sometime later, he also regained his natural skin tone when some of his life energy was drained by the plant-like Black Tom Cassidy. While Warren made a full recovery following that ordeal, he retained his restored appearance. Gradually returning to the Angel identity rather than Archangel, Warren continued acting as a member of the X-Men for some time. But eventually he underwent another traumatic experience in which his wings were completely ripped off. The mutant healer Elixir tried to use his own powers to help regrow them, but found that the Angel's wings weren't truly organic. And his attempts to do so caused the dormant Apocalypse strand in Warren's DNA to reactivate, causing him to return to his Archangel form, complete with blue skin and metal wings. Furthermore, the religious anti-mutant fanatics known as the Purifier used the Apocalypse strand within the stolen wings to create Archangels of their own. Sensing their location, Warren rushed off after his wings and violently massacred the flying Purifiers. But in the aftermath of the carnage, he reverted back to his natural form, wings and all. From then on, Warren possessed the ability to transform from his normal self to the violent and bloodthirsty Archangel persona. There are, of course, plenty of other stories involving Warren Worthington III, but for now, that is pretty much the origin of both the Angel and Archangel. And so if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it on your favorite social media. As always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Patreon page, where for only $1 a month you can get your name in these special thanks here. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!